Hello.
Hi.
Okay, I can hear you. Great. Hey, everybody. Welcome in to 52/1995, your live music conversation podcast, diving deep into the music of 1995. This is our first expansion of the 52 universe from our parent podcast, 52/movies. I am your host, Alyssa, and today I am joined by my lovely co host, Cody. Cody, welcome into the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So if this is your first time tuning in, and it is your first time tuning in because we've never done this before, we're glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you're here. Each week, we are going to discuss and explore a different album from the year 1995 in its 30-year anniversary. We will dive deep into this year's important releases, discuss them in detail, and chat with each other about our thoughts and our experiences with the music. Along with that, each month there will be a new theme or new genre that we are going to discuss. And to kick us off for the month of January, the theme is ladies. That's it. That's just it's ladies. Some of the big female artists and the big female albums of the year 1995. So that is what we are kicking things off with. But I want to welcome our guest, Cody. Cody, how are you? How you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me here as your inaugural uh, guest. I guess this would be.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're here. Well, this week's album is Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette. We are kicking things off here big this week. So, Cody, have you ever listened to this album? Have you ever listened to the whole album, a couple songs off this album? And if so, or if not, what are your first impressions?
So I would say that yes, I have listened to this album. Probably not in its entirety. Um, 90s music was kind of a big thing for me. Still kind of is. Because my sister was heavily into this, and she was junior in high school at this point in her life. So a lot of the music that we'll be talking about, or a good portion of it, she probably listened to during this time. I know for a fact she had this album. And I know that I was kind of obsessed with a couple of the songs on here as a child when I was listening to these for the first time. So, but no, not in its entirety. I would say,
Mhm.
I feel like listening to a full album um, is really rare these days for
Mhm.
people, especially with like Spotify and things like that. You just go to the songs you want. You don't have a CD or something or a cassette for that matter. When this came out, the cassettes were more prevalent that
Oh
you could just
yeah.
skip forward as easily on. So, but there are a few songs on here that I had never heard until this past, couple weeks. So,
Absolutely, yeah, me too. I mean, we've heard the singles, right? We've heard the big ones. This is a huge album for 1995. It is the album for 1995, I feel. Or well, maybe we'll find out. I don't know. We've got 51 other albums that we're going to listen to. Um, but there were even some songs that I did not realize belonged to Alanis Morissette. I just knew them. I assumed that they were like one-hit wonders or one-offs, and I didn't realize that they were from this album or they were from her. And that was kind of fun to dive deep into, as well as this is a fun album to listen to the whole way through. I like to do that, even I don't do it all the time, but I love I love listening to a whole album because I feel like a whole album tells a story. And you, especially like the order in which the songs go through, those are chosen very specifically when like the artist is putting that record out. So I kind of like to see what those creative choices are. So it was kind of definitely a fun one to go the whole way through with.
yeah, I it flowed really well, I think, as an
Hmm.
album, which is something that if you are looking for an album that maybe has no skips or something like that, that's what you're kind of looking for. And as I listened to this, I wasn't as bothered by some. I wasn't like ready to skip to the next songs as much as I thought maybe I would with some of these songs out here. But she did have a lot
Yeah,
on this album that I think were considered at least hits anyway. So.
I agree for real, for sure. Um, Fantastic. So, any other thoughts before we dive into our artist and our album?
So yeah, I'll turn your question back onto you.
Okay.
What what songs or what was your first impressions of this? Like, or what songs did you know ahead of time? And maybe I know you'll probably get into that some of that, so maybe we'll save it. But
Absolutely. No, I know you ought to know. But I feel like that has made a more recent resurgence, especially in like mainstream media, which is really fun to have that happen. I feel like I'm saying everybody knows Hand in My Pocket. And Ironic. I did not know that um, Hand in My Pocket was Alanis Morissette's song.
okay,
That was the one that I thought was just like a one hit wonder, some rando from the 90s. But those were the only ones I knew. And like, and we'll get into it, but as I was listening to the album, I was like, wow, this is really good. And then I find out, like, yeah, this is a very popular song, Alyssa, that a lot of people
hmm
know and love. And I just never heard it. So this is very similar to movies of the 90s. There's not a lot of music of the 90s that I have listened to. I did not discover the radio until I was 12, um, which is um, uh, Sheltered upbringing. So I did not know the radio existed until I was 12. So anything prior to that was a CD or cassette that was pre-selected by my parents. Either it was their music collection or it was something that was a kid song.
But you're more of
So
a music person, though, right?
but I am more of a music person. Yes, if we are comparing music to movies, I am very much so more of a music person. Have definitely heard a lot more music than I have seen movies. Um, I'm also, as we like to discuss, I am a lyric fiend. I know a lot of lyrics. There's a part of my brain that is only song lyrics, and it is deeply concerning. And I wish it was, I could use that part of my brain for something maybe a little more useful. But that is something that I kind of latch on to, especially with listening to music. So yeah, first impressions, I have a positive first impression. And I kind of went into this, I'm not blind, but really only knowing 10% of the album.
But that's okay. That's what we're doing.
Exactly. That's why we're here. That's why we're listening.
That's right.
All right. So let's learn a little bit more. So, like I said, this is Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette. The release date was June 13th, 1995. Our album is 57 minutes long. Has 13 named tracks on the album. And as we discovered this morning, there is a 14th bonus track is a lot of CDs and cassettes at the time like to um, keep it on the same track itself, but then there would be like a 5 minute gap of silence, and then there would be this surprise track that is unnamed that would just appear on those albums, which is very fun. So 13 name tracks with with one extra bonus. Um, that is our that's just kind of like the stats of our album. The artist, of course, is Alanis Morissette. So a little bit of background on her. Alanis Morissette was born on June 1st, 1974 in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. So a Canadian, began her music career in Canada doing dance pop. Actually had two dance pop albums prior to this album, even though this is kind of considered her debut because it's one, not under her stage name, which was just Alanis. It is her full name, Alanis Morissette. And this is also, again, a completely different vibe than the two albums that she put out prior in Canada. She did achieve global success with her alternative rock album, Jagged Little Pill, which sold over 33 million copies and won 4 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year, which we will be getting into. So we are kicking this year off strong. We are going with the winner of the Grammy of the Album of the Year with our very first stream. But Jagged Little Pill really propelled her into becoming the cultural phenomenon that she was, and included her and kind of pushed her to be included on several all times lists. And we'll get into that here in a moment. But that is a little bit of background. Um, Cody, anything to add there before I
I
get
was gonna.
into
I was gonna
info?
ask. Were you able to find her original recordings of anything?
Not really, no. It is gone. And I don't know if it's gone. The problem, I think, is that they were only released in Canada.
Uh,
They were not released in the United States. Now, granted, we have the internet now, and I'm sure if I dug deep enough, you could probably find it, but they're not like readily available on Spotify.
okay.
So yeah, it's almost as if she's like again, it was her stage name Alanis. Like it's not her stage name. It's just she went for the Beyonce route
Hmm.
at first, and then decided, yeah, that's not my vibe. I do also believe she was like in high school when those albums came out, because I'm pretty sure she was like just fresh out of high school, 18, when she put out Jagged Little Pill.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna ask how old. I was trying to do the math in my head of like if she's 74, so 18, 19 when this came out.
yeah. So yeah, she was, and I think she was like not a child star but kind of a child star. She was like slightly involved in some like Canadian television shows, and obviously put out two albums as a teenager. So it's kind of like pre her real career, I want to say. I'm not saying that her child acting and singing was not part of her career, but um, feels very separate to her brand and what she is now and who she was back in 95.
Pretty interesting. Yeah, I was just curious. I didn't go digging any for the OG Alanis albums, but uh, I do see. I did look up the cover of it, and it's very Paula Abdul esque looking. Um, she's got big hair. It was 91, so
Yeah, exactly. And
she was young.
I don't think she had much say in that album, or not. And I'm not saying in like a negative way. I feel like that was a persona and a career that was like kind of built for her. And then when she turned 18, she was like, let's do what I want to do. So I think that's where this was born, and it clearly went really, really well.
I love it.
So I want to talk about, did this out? So we have some questions. Did this album chart? What was the inspiration, and did it leave a legacy? So did the album chart? Absolutely. So after the success of You Oughta Know, so that was the album's first single off the album. The album's other hits really helped send Jagged Little Pill to the top of the chart. So All I Really Want, Hand in My Pocket, Ironic, You Learn, and Head Over Feet. So total of 6 singles to come from this album, and all of them charted. Took the album itself to the top 20 on the Billboard Top 200 albums for over a year. So it kind of sat in the top 20 because, hey, new single came out, sat in the top 20 for all of 95 going into 1996. Jagged Little Pill sold more than 16 million copies in the United States, 33 million worldwide, making it the second biggest selling album by a female artist. The first being Shania Twain's Come On Over. And we actually will talk about Shania Twain later in the year, not Come On Over, but Shania Twain's debut album comes out in 1995. We'll be talking about her a little later in the year. Jagged Little Pill, like I said earlier, did win Album of the Year at the 1996 Grammys, as well as Best Rock Album at the Grammys. Morissette has sold, and now in career, Morissette has sold over 75 million records worldwide. Her first 3 internationally released albums topped Billboard 200, while her next 4 albums peaked within the top 20. Her singles have achieved global chart success, and she holds the record for most songs topping the Billboard Alternative Airplay chart among female artists. So clearly she did really, really well here. Won numerous accolades. We talked about her Grammys, also won a handful of Brit Awards and Juno Awards. Rolling Stone described her as the queen of alt rock angst, and in most recently, May of 2024, ranked Jagged Little Pill specifically number 69 in the Rolling Stone's top 500 albums of all time.
Wow.
So quite the honor. VH1 also ranked her as the 53rd greatest woman of rock and roll. So yes, this did chart. This did make quite the impression.
That seems low.
Really?
That 53 seems low to me.
Women in rock?
Yeah.
I would agree.
I mean, unless we're talking like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where they just kind of like invite everybody, like Dolly Parton's, a part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and all that stuff.
That's fair. I don't know. I want to look into that. I don't know what other, like the other 52 people in front of her, 51 in front of her would be in terms of rock and roll. You're right. That's a good question. We'll have to investigate.
Investigate that, yeah.
So in terms of inspiration, so I said earlier, Alanis was about 18 when the album came out, wanted to talked in interviews about embracing her sexuality, embracing kind of molding into adulthood, as well as being nonconformist, kind of talking about and singing about things that at the time women, women, but that she felt deemed, or society deemed, that like women shouldn't be singing about sex and women shouldn't be singing about these very raw emotions. And it was kind of counterculture, again, alternative album. So that is really where like the inspiration came from. But one of the other like kind of like side things that again has kind of come into pop culture is Dave Coulier. Alanis Morissette did date the actor comedian Dave Coulier for a while, and in a 2008 interview, Dave Coulier said he was the ex-boyfriend who inspired You Oughta Know. Which is a pretty bold claim to make. In a documentary in 2021 about Jagged, Morissette denied that the song is about him. Specifically, she said, I just think if you're going to take credit for a song where I'm singing about someone being a douche or an asshole, you might not want to say, hey, that's me. So I would say that's again when we talk about like what are your first impressions? That was always my first impression. I was like, oh, that song is about Uncle Joey from Full House, which shatters, any thought that you might have about him from when you watched him as a kid. But that's not the case. And she's just kind of like, yeah, you're an ass. Don't be an ass.
I did read somewhere that that Bob Saget, before he died, said that he could confirm that like parts of the song were about Dave Coulier.
Interesting. Well, I think she said I think Morissette described the song as being written about devastation, reflecting a range of emotions that women often feel told to suppress, such as anger or sadness. So I have a feeling that maybe it was about multiple relationships, or
Yeah,
maybe, parts, you can pull aspects from relationships, but it's not like all about him.
yeah. I think when we talk about the song, we can probably. I'll
Yeah.
tell you the part that I saw in my brief
Oh, I'm sure I can guess it.
investigation.
I'm sure I could guess it. In terms of the legacy, so how has this kind of carried on other than just being a really fucking great album? Morissette's success with Jagged Little Pill was credited with opening doors for female singers such as Meredith Brooks, Tracy Bonham, Patty Rothberg, and later Avril Lavigne and Pink. So she is kind of the person who opened the door for artists like that. And Katy Perry and Kelly Clarkson have both credited Morissette and this album specifically as inspiration in their own careers. So some big names that are dropping there. There's also a stage production that premiered in May 2018, 23 years later after the album was released. There is a musical called Jagged Little Pill that is out there and has been performed. And then finally, this is just a very last minute ad. Morissette performed You Ought to Know at this past year's New Year's Rockin' Eve with Renee Rapp co-singing with her. So this song and this album clearly still carries to today because literally a week ago we were listening to it live on New Year's Eve.
That's true. I forgot all about that until you just said that. So
Yes, there it is. So that is all I said. That was a lot of background info. That's all you need to know about this album. If you didn't know any of that about this album, couple of fun facts. But with that being said, the next thing I want to do is break this album down song by song. So Cody, are you ready for it?
I'm ready. I've got it.
Awesome. So we are going to go in order, in song order of the album. And the album opens up with All I Really Want. And we get a really good harmonica sound, which I found out later that Alanis is the person playing harmonica on all the songs that you hear harmonica on this album. Um, but really, I find a really fantastic opening song. What do you think?
Yeah, I love this song. I do feel like this is like the most '90s esque song on the album.
I agree.
I think there's a lot of like wicka 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 sounds in it that feel very of the time. But I also think this is a good lyrically as well.
Hmm.
I think there's a couple parts in this song where she like pulls out some like literature references. I think she compares herself to Estella from Charles Dickens' novel Great Expectations, and all I could
Hmm.
think about was like how. Not, I'm not saying she's the first to ever do it or anything like that, but like I
Hmm.
think you think about a modern artist like Taylor Swift, somebody that you love a lot.
Hmm.
And how she pulls from literature and puts her and inserts herself um, into those kind of roles. I think of that song off of Tortured Poets, the Clara Bow song,
Hmm.
and referencing like past media or past literary references. So I thought that was kind of interesting to compare and contrast, or compare that with some of today's
Hmm.
music too.
I love that. And I want to ask you, this wasn't part of our outline, but, as we go through the album, were there songs or were there things that came to mind? When we have 52/movies, we talk about movie pairings. And
Hmm.
as we went through some of these songs, I went, ooh, I would pair this song with this song. Like I would come to modern references. So I like that you're making that connection. But you're right. I mean, musicians, I feel, are especially songwriters, are modern day poets. So it makes sense to call upon acts of or classic literature or poetry, someone who also writes and rhyme and storytelling. I do feel Alanis too is a very good storyteller.
Hmm.
She wrote, I think, all the songs with some help, but she was part of this very much. Um, so in this song in particular, the opening line is, "Do I stress you out?" And that is how we are introduced to her as a person, introduced to the album, introduced to the song. And she's like, "Hey, this is about to be stressful." And that's the energy that I bring, and that's the person who I am. And if you don't like it, you can fuck off. And that is like carried out throughout. And I think that's a really great way to like kick this off.
Yeah. In your comparisons or thinking of things like I obviously I was thinking of modern female artists like Taylor Swift. I referenced her, but like I also thought of how '90s this song is, and with a movie, I was just thinking of Reality Bites the whole time.
Hmm.
And as a movie that we watched on the other podcast, and I was trying to decide. We even joked about this. Maybe that would be a part of it. Like who in the Reality Bites cast would listen to this music? And I said like I thought three of them would, but this would be Janine Garofalo's like jam. She's
Oh yeah.
the friend in that one that works at the Gap. Who kind of gives off that like combat boots vibe, but also like a more, I don't know, feminine side too. Like the combat boots scream like militant, and
Hmm.
but that's the vibes that this gives me. Is very Janine Garofalo in this sense. So.
I fully agree. And that's something that I love about this album is that it does really balance the masculine and the feminine, like the hard, the angry, the boot stomping vibe with I'm just a girl. Like I'm a girl with big emotions, big feelings. I'm sad, I'm angry, and I need to talk about it. And that balance is so good. And I'll, specifically when we get into You Ought to Know, but if I were to recommend this album to, I'm like, hey, if you like this person, maybe you should listen to Alanis Morissette. Anyone who listens to Olivia Rodrigo.
Oh man, that was in my next note. Was
Uh,
for the
she's
next
like,
song.
I
So.
feel like she's kind of a modern day, right? In a way, I mean, has comes in on the pop scene specifically, in the same way that Alanis Morissette did. Again, she's coming in with grunge. Olivia Rodrigo is coming in with more of a pop punk, uh, leaning more heavily on pop, but still has that like angry breakup album. I wouldn't necessarily call this a breakup album, though, even though You Ought to Know being the number one song off of it is the breakup song. But it's that teenage angst, the again balancing the masculine and the feminine, and being able to, again, I see a lot of comparison between specifically Olivia Rodrigo's Sour album that came out in 2021 and this album.
Hmm. I was also going to say, like with the tracks as we're breaking them down, they feel because we've talked there what you just said about like a breakup album. Olivia Rodrigo has that breakup album. I mean, breakup. It's like a full thing. Kelly
Yeah.
Clarkson's had a breakup album. Bob Dylan's had a breakup album. Like they all have these great breakup albums out there. I don't think of this as a breakup album. As
Hmm.
more, I just see it as a woman like these are diary entries
Yeah.
and they're very different. You do have those. I mean, clearly you have from the beginning of this album, you kind of have her little intro song. The next song is like You Ought to Know, and then you have other things that aren't necessarily about the same topics. They're not all about boys or they're not all about they're not even all about her
Hmm.
in some of the songs. A lot of them are, I think, autobiographical. But yeah, she even has songs that are about friends or just trauma or
Hmm.
living and it has fun with it along the way. But yeah, it just feels like a lot of different diary entries over a year or so.
Yes, it's diary entries, it's therapy sessions.
Hmm.
Like I'm like, these are all topics you should talk to a therapist about in a good way. And but I fully agree. It's a year in the life almost. Yeah, definitely not a breakup album. Though it has an incredible breakup song, which is our next topic. You ought to know. It is. the song.
Yeah, I have on here, "This Is Good For You,"
This is
by
yeah,
Olivia. Yeah, this is angrier good for you, it feels
yes.
like. I also wanna know, and it's interesting you brought up Olivia Rodrigo, as I was gonna bring her up too, but, like, Olivia Rodrigo's super young. She's, like, 21, 22, and Alanis Morissette is 19/20 when she's
Mhm.
talking about these things, and it's kind of scary in a way. Madonna did this in the 80s where she's talking about very taboo subjects, but it's kind of, she's like in your face about it, whether like sexuality.
Mhm.
um it's in a different, like, Alanis Morissette's bringing it in a different way that I don't feel like we've heard from a woman artist. And maybe I'm
Mhm.
wrong about that and could be, would love to be checked and listen to some more good music in that sense. But yeah,
Mhm.
it just feels like she's coming at it from a different angle and she's way angrier about it. Whereas like Madonna's more like embracing sexuality, and not saying that Alanis is not embracing it, but she's also like, giving you the middle finger at the same time.
Mhm. Well, yes, I fully agree. This is more, and it's because this is a social commentary as well. And when we get to Forgiven, that's going to answer a lot of our questions. But this is a social commentary, kind of like, Alanis was like, yeah, this is, I'm going to sing about stuff that women shouldn't be singing about, like having a sex life, right? In terms of like, and I think too, she's singing about it in such a way that is so matter of fact, that is so, I don't want to say vulgar, but she uses, F word a lot, like to just like, and we'll get into lyrics, but she's so matter of fact with it. And um, to just kind of talk about, yeah, this is my sex life, or this is part of my sex life, or this is a normal thing to be talking about. This isn't some fantasy. It's not something that's like, innuendo. It's, hey, I fucked this dude. And I don't know if, like you said, I don't know if it feels like the first time we got that in mainstream music, that we got this with a Grammy winning album, that we got this on pop radio, that we got this not in the grunge punk genre. This is top Billboard top 20. But I mean, there's so many lyrics in the song that are just like punchy. But are you thinking of me when you fuck her? Is so like ah, like in such a good way. Like this song makes you just want to like yes.
Yeah.
It's angry, but it's angry in such a good way. Like you want to punch the air, and it's like, yeah, you fucking tell him. Like it's just so good. And again,
It,
it's that storytelling element too, because she's like, hate to bother you in the middle of dinner, and I just picture like she runs into him like the two of them, him with his new girlfriend at dinner in a public place, and she's just going off on him. That is the scene that I am set from the lyrics, from the vibe, and I'm like, this is fantastic.
do you think that in this story she was with a man that had a relationship, or moved on from her with somebody that was, older, more mature? Or do you think that maybe this was like, I mean, do we get anything about her being his wife, or like,
Oh
I
no.
wasn't ever sure, like maybe this was who he was with, because you see that in movies and TV shows all the time where the mistress doesn't know that she's the mistress, and she finds
Hmm.
out, oh, you have this wife, you have this life that's not me. um,
Hmm.
Screw you, kind of thing. So that's kind of
Yeah.
how it always played out in my head, that whenever she's, did I bother you in the middle of dinner, they're like sitting at their home in the middle of
Mm.
this, this dinner that they're having with their friends, and she comes in, or she calls at that time and bothers them. So I don't know.
No.
That's kind of how I always played it out in my head. I know we've done that before, where I was like, I think it means this, and you're like, I think it means this. You're right most of the time, if not
Well,
all of
I
the
think
time. So
no. I never, I say that's, I like that interpretation. I've never interpreted it that way. Um, she says, how quickly I was replaced. So just based on that lyric alone, it sounds
yeah,
like knocked her out, knocked the new one right in. She also says, this is my, again, my assumption, she does mention that this person is older, the older version of me. Will she have your babies? And I kind of am under the impression, Alanis is 18 at the time when she's writing this song. Maybe she's dating someone who's like 30, looking to settle down and doesn't really view her or as someone who's mature, someone he should
Mhm.
take seriously as a life partner. She's just someone to fuck around with. And when he actually does decide, maybe he does, maybe there's some crossover there that she's not aware of, but
Well, that's
uh,
the lyric, Mr. Duplicity. It makes me think that there's something more nefarious that he was doing.
mm,
Maybe he did cheat on her with this other woman, or there was something a little bit more duplicitous
mhm.
going on.
I like it. I still am here for the any and all interpretations.
Yeah. Other thing about this, like I remember this song really well on the radio, and mostly because of the parts that they would bleep out on the radio. And I always wondered about those parts. And so when you actually listen to the album and you hear the F word, or that lyric where you were just talking about, an older version of me, is she perverted like me? They always bleeped out the would she go down on you in a theater,
Hmm.
the go down part. And I always thought that was so funny whenever I listened to it on the radio. It's like, what's she saying there? And then when I found out, I was like, oh, interesting. It's not even a bad word, but it's a bad act, I guess.
Right. Well, it's preventing children from going, "Mommy, what does that mean?"
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But again, like, is she perverted? Like, again, this is an 18-year-old, 19, like, liberated, um, open with their sexuality, willing to put that kind of stuff out there. Because I could see, I mean, even today, I feel like we're a little bit more lax on uh, more like perverted or perverse lyrics. I mean, with people out there like Olivia Rodrigo, or Sabrina Carpenter comes to mind whenever I'm thinking of like innuendo and things like that. Um, but I didn't think that, this kind of stuff it wasn't common at
Well,
all.
oh, well, I would agree. Innuendo, again, Sabrina Carpenter is an excellent example of innuendo. Perfect. But in terms of like blatancy, like we are as a society are still not there yet.
Yeah.
And my example of that is this is immediately comes what comes to mind is a Jason Derulo song
Hmm.
called "Talk Dirty to Me." There is a version of that song, and I don't remember who the feature is, but there's it's a verse chorus rap feature, and whoever is on that feature and it played on the radio said the lyric "suck my penis," and that is a lyric that is in the song, and it was so widely not accepted, they took it out. Like
Oh,
they
wow.
no longer play that version on the radio. I don't even know if that version still exists, like on Spotify. Like it was, people were just like, "Ew, don't like that," because it was too explicit.
Hmm.
He said the word penis. Like he didn't even. It's not a bad word. He didn't say anything like anything explicit, but like everyone just kind of went, "Oh no," and that was only, I don't know if that was 10 years ago. Like, I mean, 10 years ago is still a long time ago, but again, Jason Derulo is an active singer now. Like, it's not,
Hmm.
this isn't, I think, still as a society, we're like, there are certain things that we don't say out loud in songs and play on radios. And if you try to, we will say, please don't do that anymore.
I feel like there is, I just thought I was racking my brains, and of course, I've got multiple. Thinking about, like, this is more acceptable, I think, in like the hip hop realm than
Mm-hmm.
anything. And just thinking about like Nicki and Cardi B, and we have a song like WAP come out, and yeah, it's pretty explicit, like what she's saying in there. And a lot of hip hop songs get away with a lot more of that
Mm-hmm.
than maybe these rock songs do, and that's
Mm-hmm.
or pop songs even. So
Yeah, but even so, WAP is full of innuendo.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's, macaroni in a pot is in and in and of itself not anything bad, but because it's not explicit, it's implicit.
Yeah, I
Uh,
guess that's true. I was just thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, you forgot all about Cardi B or Megan the Stallion.
I
It's
love Megan.
so I don't know. I think, I mean, for me, this is probably. whenever it came to, I looked at like Spotify plays just because I was interested. This is actually not even the number one song of like Spotify plays.
Really? What is
I
it?
think this is like third. I think Ironic is number one by like
Hmm.
200 like million plays or something. Like it's insane how much more popular Ironic is than all of the other songs on the album. But we can get there.
Mhm. Interesting. What was is it the Down on the Theater? Is that the lyric that Bob
That
Saget confirmed?
No, that wasn't even it. It was actually the she called uh, Dave Coulier's house in the middle of dinner, and he was there. Bob Saget was there, and he said that, I want to say in like 2014 or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he was like, "Oh yeah, I was there when she called."
Very interesting.
But who knows? We can't confirm or deny, and it's almost more fun not knowing who it's about. It's like
Hmm.
um, what is that song that ever the "You're So Vain"?
Hmm.
Nobody knows who that song's about,
Yeah.
and everybody loves to assume who it is about. And it's by Carly Simon. Is it about Warren Beatty, or is it about somebody else? Who knows? But
Hmm.
um, it's almost more fun to not know.
I agree. That's something, and again, I'm sure we will talk about Taylor Swift quite a bit on this podcast. Um, that is something that she has come out and said, fans or, people treating her albums like paternity tests. And I was like, ooh, that's very interesting. Like what a jarring
Who's
way to
the
phrase that.
Yeah, that's funny. I'd never heard it said like that though.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
like, she's like,
who's
oh,
the
who's this
father of
song?
this song? Yeah.
Yeah, what boy is this song about? And she's like, fuck you, this is my music. It's about whoever I want it to be about. And like John Mayer coming out and saying, getting pissed that Dear John is about him, and Taylor Swift coming out saying, bold of you to assume this is about you. Now, granted, it's called Dear John, but anyway, it's fun to guess, but it's all like I agree with you. It is more fun to not know, to make
Hmm.
those assumptions.
Yeah, I agree. We think we got some funny people in the chat here.
Hello, funny people. I love having people in the chat. Um, so what about the next one? Perfect. Any, did that punch you in the gut at all?
So honestly, again, just as I was listening to this album, I had never really listened to this song before. This wouldn't be a song that I would go to
Mhm.
if I was like wanting to hear an Alanis Morissette song. I probably would have skipped over this, and probably did skip over this many times before. But honestly, I think this might be my surprise song of the album. I really liked this song a lot.
It is a total vibe change from the first two songs that we got. And and that's why I describe it as a gut punch. If you are someone who has ever felt inadequate, someone who deals with perfectionism or people pleasing, and it's almost, again, with her storytelling, it's almost as if it's told from the perspective of a parent, like a parent's inner, most deepest, darkest thoughts about their kid, um, about how their kid's just not good enough. And these are thoughts that I'm sure everybody deals with, growing up or even into adulthood. This idea that I'm not good enough or I'm not perfect. And if I don't do X, Y, or Z, I'm not going to get that approval from the people I want to get approval from. And it's very good.
Hmm. I liked how raw and stripped down the song is. Especially like the first song, and even "You Ought to Know" coming in are very produced. Especially that first song, it feels like there's a lot of other than her harmonica, there's not a lot of natural sound, I guess is the best way to, like, instrumentation in there. Like I said, there's a lot of that wicka, 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 wicka,
Hmm.
which is a guitar sound. But on this one, it is just her. And the thing that I like about it, obviously the song's name is Perfect, but the vocals are not perfect. There are a couple times when I first heard the song, I was like, damn, like, how off key, or that sounds so bad, like sharp and bad and everything. But then it just kind of made the song come out a little bit better, like
Hmm.
that it wasn't perfect, which is what the song is, implying, like how I you're always like striving to be better, or you got to try harder. It's not good enough. So I like those little moments when it does. Obviously the song can sound however she can hit whatever notes she wants, and it's perfect to her how she
Hmm.
would it. But that was the thing that I got from the song the most was like those little moments when she goes real sharp
Hmm.
on the notes when you don't think that's how it's supposed to go. I
Hmm.
really liked that part of the instrumentation and her vocals too. Like it
Hmm.
wasn't perfect, so I think that was why I liked it.
Yeah, she does that a lot where she hits a note that you're like, that doesn't sound quite right, and yet it still fits. It still works. It is correct, even if it doesn't sound correct in the moment. Like sonically, you're like, ah, and then you get into it, you're like, okay, that makes sense.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I like that duality of it, and you see it a lot in this entire album. Alanis loves a um a juxtaposition, whether it's in the lyrics, in the sound, what have you. She's like doing one thing over here, but it means something else.
Hmm.
Or, there's a black and white, whatever it is. So we definitely get that in this song. Um, it's not my favorite lyric. I have a favorite lyric, and we'll talk about that when we get to the end. But one of my favorite lyrics that stuck out was the very last line in this song, um, which is, "We'll love you just the way you are if you're perfect." That's how the song ends. And because everything leading up to this point really isn't anything like too bad, or just try a little harder, push a little farther, oh, that wasn't good enough. And it's like everything's implied, 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 and then at the very last lyric it's no longer implied. It's, we will love you if you're perfect. It's like,
That's harsh. That's pretty
it's
harsh.
harsh. It's
Yeah.
harsh. And there's a couple of other songs, we'll get into them later, but like some of these songs are like, oh, I haven't had to face, again, this is a conversation you should have with a therapist. I haven't had to face this in a minute. Now it's put in front of my face.
Yeah, that was out of the songs I think that are like that are of the slower version or slower songs on this album. This one's my favorite out of all of those. Because
Hmm.
it does the best job. Because there are a couple songs toward the end of the album that I was just like, all right, I'm done. I'm out. I've checked out now. So
That's
yeah, I
fair.
don't know. This one's definitely my favorite out of those, though.
Cool. Next is Hand in My Pocket.
I think on this one I wrote down especially the notes about like the harmonica parts,
Hmm.
especially, and like lyrically it does feel like one of like Bob Dylan's poppier songs. Like I'm thinking Mediterranean Lovesick Blues. Like she's just having fun with the
Hmm.
lyrics, and they don't always have to be mean something, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, because really it is what you were talking about, that juxtaposition. I'm
Um,
saying this but I'm this,
hmm.
this but I'm this, and yeah, I mean there's not a lot else going on in this song that's like of a deeper meaning. I didn't take it that way anyway. It does seem more of a fun, like, again, like an introduction. Hey, I'm Alanis Morissette. Here's who I am. This is what I am, but this is how I really am. Or
Hmm. Yeah, I wrote down feel good vibes. Like
yeah.
this is we're starting to feel a little like this is the first happy song that we get, happier, or at least hopeful.
Mhm.
But yeah, you say that this is, um, like you said, the jokes, but like I'm this, but I'm that. I'm whole, but I'm broken, or whatever. Like there's a lot of things happening here. This song was also parodied on TikTok
TikTok,
for a
yeah.
while, and I'm just thinking about I crop dust in Whole Foods, and it makes me laugh every time. But this is, yeah, it's an iconic song. The harmonica is great sonically. It's way lighter than anything we've heard thus far, and it's fun. And I like getting, again, a change, something a little bit different. It's way more lighthearted, not taking itself seriously like the rest of the album already has.
And this is the one that you said you didn't know was an Alanis Morissette song, right?
Yes, and You Learn. Both of those I did not realize were Alanis Morissette songs.
Okay. I feel like
Yeah.
she's got that thing in her voice where I can always kind of spot a Alanis Morissette vocally. It's like
Hmm.
if you hear Adina Menzel sing, just
Yeah.
on topic of like um, it's their mouths. They have big
Yeah.
mouths.
Yeah. Now I can hear it. Now that I know,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, duh. Like I can hear it immediately. But yeah, before putting the name to a face, I never thought about it.
So yeah, I don't have much more to say about this. This is a fun song.
That's okay.
It's not my favorite song on the album.
Agreed.
It is a bop, obviously, and it is a very poppy song. And you're right, it is our first like happy song
Hmm.
of the few
Uh,
that we get.
yes, we don't get many, but that's good. We get the whole range of human emotion.
Mhm.
What about right through you?
So this was again as we go through like some of these songs that I did not know this song going
Hmm.
in. Um, I did read up on what this song was about.
Hmm.
But from when I before I read up on it, I was like, this just seems like the older generations taking advantage of younger generations, saying that I'm
Mm,
smarter than you, I've been here before, I know this better than you, and then her response is just like, no, that's not true. You're treating me like a child, and I want to do what I want, and it's going to be better, and I'm going to be bigger than you, and I'm going to be famous. I'm going to make $1 billion, I think, which is part of the lyrics in this song.
yeah,
And I think it's just a huge middle finger to, you know, that generation of thing. And this does feel very mid '90s anarchist, like I'm not gonna the punk, so punk
yeah.
feeling of this.
The Reality Bites kids would love this one.
Oh yeah,
This is
oh
their
yeah.
song. I the only note I have is a lot of fuck you songs on this album, and I love it. That's that's like it just is again, it's just another one, and it's good. And but yeah, looking into it, I think this song is about the music industry
Hmm.
that specifically men in the music industry act like they want to help women push their career forward, and they do so in order to take advantage, like you were saying. The Wine Dine 69,
Wine
iconic.
969. Yeah, I love
The
that.
way she says it, it's like to say Wine Dine 69 in such an angry tone. It's so good.
And it just flowed. Really, it was a Wine 969.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. It's very good. But yeah, I didn't know this one either. And another angry one, another fuck you song. It's good.
This is her Scooter Braun song.
This is her Scooter Braun song.
She's in her Scooter Braun era here.
Oh, what about Forgiven?
What about Forgiven? That I want to ask you how you're doing with Forgiven. I heard it and I was like, "Ooh, this is this is gonna be one." Yeah,
I
full of religious trauma. I think she's
religious trauma.
obviously coming from a Catholic background. This one also, this one I did feel like she had a little bit of different vocal styling than um, her other kind of like we were just talking about her Wine 969,
The
like
twang.
the twang there. This one sounded more like an Evanescence song to me.
Yes.
Which is funny
Yes.
because like Evanescence, a similar kind of vibe, like coming from a Christian background and putting out
Darker
this
themes.
darker themes, a little more gothic on there. But yeah, this was a song. This talking about like growing up through being Catholic and doing the things that you're supposed to do. Um, I can the lyric, I confessed my darkest needs to an envious man. I was just like, ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
It
This is
must
the
suck to be
song.
Catholic sometimes.
I This is the song that had my favorite lyric in it. Um, and we can talk about it now. I confessed my darkest deeds to an envious man. My brothers, they never went blind for what they did, but I may as well have. In the
Yeah.
name of the Father, the skeptic, and the Son, I have one more stupid question. And I'm like,
So Do you think that that lyric about like never being blind has to deal with like is that
Smited.
about what is that? Smited?
Smited.
Well, I was just thinking about like, hey, if if you lust after a woman, like pluck your eye out and like she's not allowed to have any sexual thoughts or feelings or look at people in a
Yeah.
certain way or anything like that. But my brothers, like my whether it's she's talking about her actual, I don't know if she has brothers or not, or if
Hmm.
she's just talking like brothers in Christ or whatever it is.
Hmm.
That's what it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
just thought
She
of
does
that.
have brothers. She does have brothers. She has a twin brother and an older brother.
Interesting.
Um, and yeah, so again, interpretations. Um, it has to do with gender. I don't know if it's her literal brothers, but like men can, men are allowed to have be sexual beings and allowed to do sexual things. And they'll, it's this idea that they'll never get in trouble. It's like it's male urges. They're allowed to have that. That's men. Boys will be boys, right?
Mm,
And they won't be smited. They won't go blind. They won't get in trouble, quote unquote, or they won't be looked at differently for the things that they've done. But I might as well have. Like it's just two completely different, you know, lives in a way.
yeah.
It's like, why is this fair? Just because I'm a woman and they're men, they get to do whatever they want, and I'm the one who's going to pay for this.
I like that. I like that lyric. If I jump in this fountain, will I be forgiven?
Hmm.
Which obviously in like Catholicism, that's has a different. But like in like fundamentalism or any other sect of Christianity, where you do go through like baptisms and things like that,
Hmm.
like I just think of that, and I'm like, I thought of. A kid making fun of me for being of Church of Christ whenever I was in high school. We always joked about it. He wasn't really me, but he was always laughing about Church of Christ. And it's like, dunk, you win, you get in, like you're in heaven.
Hmm.
So as long as you get baptized, you're good. So I thought that was kind of a interesting. Like, if I do this, can I get in? If I follow this rule,
Yes.
can I get in? If I ask for forgiveness,
Hmm.
yeah. So
Yes. I like it. And it's this, and even this, the chorus, we all had reasons to be there. We all needed something to hold on to. So we did. And it's like, yes, I feel like that's why a lot of people, participate or want to find some kind of religion is that they just need something. They need something bigger than themselves. They need something to hold on to make their existence feel better. And I don't mean that in a negative way. That's something that every human seeks out. Um, but how do we do it and what healthy parts do we cling on to versus the not so healthy parts?
mhm.
Yeah, I heard this and I was just like I'm not okay.
you
um,
you weren't ready.
I was not ready. I genuinely wasn't. I was like, did not think I'd be talking about religious trauma at 7 in the morning, but here we are.
Yeah.
uh, Next one is you learn, or do you have anything else on that one?
No, no, I don't have anything else.
All right, next song is you learn.
You you learn
uh,
a lot in this song.
you learn a lot. Again, another like you live, you learn, you laugh, you cry, like a back and forth, the black and white juxtaposition. That's just her gig. I do like this song paired with Hand in My Pocket.
Hmm.
Like I feel like they're kind of the same song, just different fonts.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. This is also where the jagged little pill comes from.
Yes.
As you swallow it down, what a jagged little pill. It
Love
feels so good
when
swimming in your stomach.
I love when an album title is not a song name, but it is somewhere in the lyrics.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I like, yeah, this one, a great comparison back to Hand in My Pocket. This is a more pop, like a slowed down, poppier song, I would
Hmm.
say. But yeah, it's mostly chorus, and mostly like back and forth. You live, you learn, you love, you learn, you cry, you learn, you lose, you learn, you bleed, you learn, you scream, you learn. So
Hmm.
basically, you're just learning the whole time.
It's a
Everything
lot
that
of
you do
learning.
has a lesson
She's a
behind it.
scholar.
She is a scholar
She's learned.
and a gentleman.
Yeah,
So
that's kind of it.
yeah, honestly, not every song has needs a big meaning behind it
Yeah.
or stuff to talk about. So
That's okay. What about Head Over Feet?
So another big poppy song on here. I do think this one's a little bit more um, has a little bit more substance than the other two poppy songs that we talked about. But she's like super in love,
Hmm.
which is, very different from the beginning of this
Yeah.
album where she's very angry and too
Yes.
much school for me. Get out of here. Um, and really, I mean, I loved a lot of this felt more like a love poem, truly, that you would just
Hmm.
read. No, I really like this one. And I don't think I knew this song. But I don't think I ever went and actually like read the lyrics through and uh, just see how in love she was with whoever she
Hmm.
was in love with at that time. So
Yeah, I loved this song. I literally wrote, "Finally, we get a happy one. Happy for her." I'm like, "Yay, good, it's happening." I did not know this song. Like, this was one that I was like, "Wow, this song is great." And then I looked it up. It's like, yeah, this was a single. It charted, like you idiot. But it's um, it's so yeah, you're right. It's a great love poem. She's just in love. It's a happy song. It's reciprocated. I wrote it's accepting the love we didn't think we deserved, which I know is a
mhm.
corny line from Perks of Being a Wallflower, but that's kind of what it's saying here. She's like, I didn't expect this. I don't know how this is happening. Somehow you're in love with me, and I'm in love with you, and this is fantastic. Um,
And it
Go ahead.
doesn't feel codependent.
No.
There are a couple lines in there where I was just like, I don't know how it like she said like I've never felt this healthy before, which I think is not because she's I so happy. I don't know. They like that was the one line where I was like, I don't like that line. But I
Mm,
like the lines right above it. Like, you're the best listener I've ever met. You're my best friend with benefits. I really liked that. Like,
that was
and
cute.
in the idea of calling a significant other your best friend with benefits, like I thought that was really cute.
Hmm.
And like, what took me so long? Why was I wasting my time this whole time when I could have been here in this
Yeah.
moment?
Yeah. I also like, I couldn't help it. It's all your fault. Like, it's
So
such a,
yeah,
it's cheeky. It's like, well, I didn't want to be in love, but then you showed up and now I'm just in love with you and it's dumb and stupid. And I'm and I think that's very cute. I think it's fun. Like, kind of, it's like I blame you because you're just such a, like, so fun. I,
you held your breath and the door for me. Thanks for your
mhm.
patience. Yeah.
Yes, and it's like you. I mean, you are the chorus. You already won me over in spite of me. So it's like I'm the one self-sabotaging. I'm the one who's backing up and saying I don't deserve something like this or that this can't be meant for me. And you're being patient with me. And now we're here, and it's great. And I like that for her.
Yeah. You treat me like I'm a princess. I'm not used to that. You ask
Hmm.
how my day was. Yeah.
It's
Good
cute.
for her. I'm glad she's happy.
I'm glad for
In
one
night
song at
for
least.
one song in 1995, I'm glad she's made it here.
Hmm.
She
She
seems
is
happy.
she is married. She has been married for like a long time. They have three children together. He's also a musician, so I think she's happy.
Yeah, I actually just looked that up because I was like, is she married? I hope
Yes.
so. Like, not that I hope so. Not that everybody has to get married or anything, but I'm just like,
Mhm. Does she
she
have
deserves
love?
it. Does she? She deserves it.
She
Whoever it
has love
is,
in
she
her life, and
deserves it.
that's good.
That's right. That's all that matters.
So that takes us to Mary Jane.
um, yeah. So this is the song that this is about her friend. I think like this is one of the ones that is not about her specifically, and it's also not about marijuana, which is what people thought it was about for a long time.
Yes, I think it also is. It's about her friend, but there are things that she sings about in here that also pertain to her.
Hmm.
Um, Alanis Morissette did struggle with depression and various eating disorders throughout her teens and 20s. And that's kind of alluded to in here as well. So it could be for both.
It reminds me of Pearl Jam.
Mm,
And there's a song by Pearl Jam, which is a much, I wouldn't say much sadder song that has a much sadder outcome in that song. It's called Jeremy. And I don't know why, but this song really reminded me. I think Jeremy comes off of Pearl Jam. It's either on Vitalogy or it's on their 10 album, which came out in 94 and 91. I think that yeah,
Hmm.
somewhere in there. I used to look up this kind of stuff. But it's again like a female voice putting a song out there that's talking about real things that
Hmm.
obviously everything on this is real, but like somebody that is dealing with an eating disorder or depression or like hey that we can have things too that we're sad and you know we're not okay and so that's what this
Hmm.
song really reminded me of was like a Pearl
Yeah,
Jam-esque song.
I see that.
um yeah.
I so so I think calling this song Mary Jane is a disservice to the song. Because I mean, the entire time I'm thinking, is this song about marijuana? Is she just like really against marijuana? And it I was distracted the whole time. I just, I don't, I mean, I get it. Again, it's a fake name or it's just a name that she used and it's like throughout the entire song. But it kind of drove me crazy.
Hmm.
And I was like, I feel like it takes away from the song, like unintentionally. But I'm sitting here going, what is this song about? Not able the first time I listened to it to digest the lyrics because it is a very pretty song, but like with it's in 3/4 time as opposed to the rest of the album, and um, it's thinking about like you said, very sad, serious subjects, and yet I'm just sitting here thinking about pot, and I just wish it was a different name. I just wish it was a different name because
Yeah.
then I think it would punch harder.
Yeah. I Mary Jane, that's like my favorite name. That's all I can think of with Mary Jane is from Scooby Doo
Scooby
movie.
Doo.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's like my favorite name.
Hilarious.
No, I get that. Yeah. I don't know why I never think about it. I think it is the way that she sings the Mary Jane.
Hmm.
I don't know. It just flows a little different, and yeah. I don't know. I had never heard this song either.
Mm-mm.
This is one of those kind of surprising songs on here. Not my least favorite song, but not.
Mm.
It's up there.
Yeah, that's fair. Then that takes us to the iconic, ironic.
Ooh, she's a poet and didn't know it.
She's learned.
Yeah, this is our most popular song.
Do
Um,
you know what this song reminds me of? Or let me rephrase. The first time I heard this song was from Justin Timberlake and Jimmy Fallon.
oh, really?
I mean, this is what I think of when, and I mean, I'm sure I definitely heard the song prior to this.
Hmm.
But whenever prior to like doing this full album deep dive, anytime I heard the "Isn't it ironic," I would think of Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake
Don't you think?
and doing their little skit and being stupid.
Yeah.
And I wish that wasn't the case, but here we are.
This was my favorite. This was my favorite song when I was 8 years old. Like I loved this song. I loved the music video. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to watch any of the music videos for any of these. I really, really like this music video. It's basically her in a car with three other versions of herself,
Mm,
um, and like it's just she's got one that has like braids like those total like 90s braids everywhere.
mm-hmm,
um she's got a couple other like versions of her. I think one's like in flannel and everything, but the main version of her, the one that is driving, who I was like in love with, was just like in this like red beanie, and she's got this scarf on and a big coat and blue gloves on and stuff. I was just like, she's awesome. And I can remember not liking the version of her with the braids in the back. I thought she was weird looking. She looked like an alien to me. This is what goes on in the 8-year-old's mind. But
mm-hmm,
this song, I think, I love. Again, I love this song. It's almost like it's been dieharded or sriracha'd to me or bacon to me. This is like one of those songs where people are like, oh, none of those things are ironic, right? Like, and I
mm-hmm,
think that is everybody's favorite fun fact about this song is that and it's not even a fun fact anymore because everybody knows it. Like that none of these things are ironic.
mm-hmm.
And it annoys me more than anything.
It annoys you that none of it's ironic, or it annoys you that
No,
people say it?
it annoys me that people say it.
Yeah, agreed. It, yeah, when I was researching this song, this was labeled as controversy. And I'm like, oh, we have fallen as a society. If like this is what we said was controversial, was that she just used the word ironic and it wasn't correct. Like we used to be a proper country. That was the biggest news headline, that the song ironic wasn't ironic. And I'm like, everyone needs to calm down. It's a song. It's funny.
Yeah, it's a funny song, and like it's they've gone on record and tried to salvage it, but they also didn't care that much, when they
Who
wrote this.
cares? Who
Yeah,
cares?
it's
I
just yeah, I don't know. I think that's it, and it's kind of ruined it a little for me. And I think this is a really fun song. Um, and she has a lot of fun with it. And like I said, if you haven't seen the music video, anybody out
mhm,
there, go watch the music. It's a fun music video, and
mhm.
she's having a lot of fun with it. And yeah, I just think that people are too nitpicky and care too much about being right about things now. And I
Mhm.
know I'm a know-it-all. I love being right about things, but yeah, this one pisses me off and it almost ruins the song. And that's why I was so surprised that I was like, "Oh, this song has more plays on Spotify than any of her other ones."
Yes, it's interesting. It's kind of, I feel like it has reached or it's kind of entering into, or maybe entered into first, the unwritten status.
Ooh, yeah.
This is like Nata, like the, feel the pain of your skin. It's like people either like they like most people ironically like that song now.
Mhm.
And the same way that they ironically like ironic. And you're like, oh, I love that song. It's just like you're being a dick. Like you don't actually love that song. You just are a walking meme.
Yeah.
And you're ruining it. It is a good song and you're ruining it.
Yeah, this
Same
song
with
has
Unwritten.
has 500,000,000 plays on Spotify.
Wild. I
Yeah.
did, and like in listening to the lyrics are a lot darker than like such a lighthearted song makes you think of. I say this is the 90s version of that funny feeling.
Okay.
Um, just because again, it's talking about irony in a way.
Mhm.
Let's, for the purposes of our conversation, it's talking about irony, which is all that funny feeling is. And it's like a man who, is so scared to get on a plane for the first time, gets on a plane and the plane crashes. And it's like, isn't that ironic? And it's like, oh my God, that's a really fucked up thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, and and again, it still has that like light tone to it. So it reminded me a little bit of that funny feeling.
Yeah, and I love that on the chorus, it just ends with "Who would have thought?" It figures. Like
It figures.
it figures. I like that. It
Mhm.
figures. Of course, the way she sings, it's great. So,
Mhm.
no, I love this song. I wish it wasn't ruined for those reasons, but
Mhm.
I like that comparison, the funny feeling thing. That's good.
What about Not the Doctor?
Not the doctor. What did I write down for not the doctor? There was a lyric that I really liked in this. One, I think this is a good song. I think it's better lyrically than it actually is a good song. Is that
Okay.
weird to say? No, I like the message of this. Like, hey, I'm not the doctor's a great title for this, but it's also like mostly it's like I'm not your fucking mother. I'm not
Mhm.
your babysitter. I'm not gonna be all these things that you really want me to be because I'm me and I'm gonna be me and I can't be taking care of you. So get your shit together.
Yeah.
And I really like that part of and bringing in the not the doctor. I thought that was pretty clever. I like the "I don't want to be your other half" line. I believe that
Mhm.
one and one make two. I think that was my favorite line in this song.
Yeah, we're both whole. We should both be whole people, not half of a
Mhm.
person looking for the other half.
Yeah, I think this kind of goes along with some of the like. This kind of goes along with "You Ought to Know" a little bit as another like "fuck you." Um,
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't get it.
you didn't get
Like
it?
I I wrote, is this not wanting, that's about not wanting to take care of a man. He put her on a pedestal and she's like, I don't want to be on this pedestal. But I think I agree. I'm agreeing with you in this, in the lyrics. Like lyrically, it's cool. In the lyrics are even better than the song itself. The verses make sense. I'm here. I hear it. I
Hmm.
see it. I know what the song's about. That chorus makes no fucking sense to me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I like that. Like the
Because
visiting hours, and I show
yeah,
like
it's like this,
okay,
this
so you're saying that you're, and maybe she's just trying to say like we're on different times, but to me the visiting hours are 9 to 5, and if I show up 10 past 6, well, I already know that you'd find some way to sneak me in. Like I don't get that part where it's like, okay, I showed up late to our time, but you're gonna bring me in anyway because I'm awesome.
right. It's like I'm gonna be a dick to you, and you're gonna go above and beyond to see me, and I don't like that. And I'm like, okay, and like does again, that's why I was thinking about the pedestal. Like you've put me on this pedestal, and I don't want to be here. Like
Yeah.
I can get that, but and then she like there's a line about, I don't want to sweep your eggshells that you have to walk on. Like again, the lyrics and the verses are so good, but like to me, the chorus doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I
I
could
did
see that.
I didn't dislike this song. It was catchy, but I had to listen to it at least 3 times before I understood what was happening.
I don't want to be the substitute for the smoke you've been inhaling. Yeah, I just like I don't want to be it. This one feels more about like codependence than anything to me.
Hmm.
But I do think you're right about the chorus not being the best lyrically.
Yeah.
Um,
It's so hard. And like the thing is, when you have such a great album, like then you start to nitpick and you're like, why isn't this song just as great as the rest of them?
oh yeah.
And
Well,
so
that's
like if
no.
mhm,
What I was gonna say. That's how I feel about the last song or the next song,
wake up,
"Wake Up," which I was just bored to tears.
it's fine.
I just put boring. That's all I put on there.
I did think it was a good ending. I'm like, it's not, you don't want, I don't think when you put an album together, your last song is your strongest. Like
Hmm.
that very rarely happens, if ever. You don't really want it to be your strongest because it's at the end of the album. It's a good outro, I feel. I also thought it would have been a pretty decent opening song if All I Really Want. I think Wake Up could be an okay intro song, but All I Really Want is the intro song. All I Really Want couldn't be the ending song. I'm trying to think, would I like this better if it was in a different order? I do think it's kind of like one of the most boring songs on the album.
But she's doing that thing
But
lyrically too that we've
the
talked
the
about. You,
the contradictions.
yeah, you like snow, but only if it's warm. You like rain, but only if it's dry. Like that doesn't even make sense. Yeah, you
You're
actually don't like
pansy,
these
is what
things.
she says.
Yeah,
No, it's okay. It's fine. I thought it was a good ending to an album. I thought it was a good like shut the door. Obviously, there's a remix of "You Ought to Know" after this with the bonus track. But I think to me, this is like the real album ending.
yeah, I agree. Because the bonus track doesn't really give you much to go on, as it's just an a cappella song, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
I sonically didn't love the bonus track, what I believe it's called "Your House."
Hmm.
It's like I didn't think I was like this needs music behind it. I don't think she's doing well. I mean, again, she hits those weird notes, but it works when she's backed by um, guitars and synths, and but when
Yeah,
she's doing it a cappella, those weird notes don't make sense. Love the story, love the storytelling.
you
This
must have.
idea.
I didn't listen to it that hard. I'll be
Oh,
honest.
I did. Well, I was curious. I was like, oh, I didn't realize. And it's, yeah, she's like, would you forgive me, love, if I, came into your house and laid in your bed? And like, she's basically breaking and entering, which we don't do that enough. We need more breaking and entering.
I do
Out
think
of,
that song. Sorry, I do. When I was thinking of that song, I was thinking of, again. I do work in a movie mind. I was thinking of Chungking Express, and I was
yeah,
thinking of Faye breaking into that guy's house and doing every cleaning up and playing with his plane and all that stuff. I was. That's what I
yeah.
kept thinking of. I know that's not necessarily exactly what it is, but I couldn't help but think of that part of it.
But it's cute. No, she says like she's basically breaking and entering into his home. They've broken up. They're not together. She's like, "Would you forgive me if I did this? I just miss you so much." Then she sees a letter written to him that says, "I love you. Meet me at midnight. You're the love of my life." And she's like, "That's not my handwriting."
Mm,
And then she's like, "Would you forgive me if I cried in your bed?" As opposed to the previous lyric, which was laid in your bed.
hmm.
So she's just like devastated. And I was like, it's such a good story. I am again, it's like played out in front of me. I can see what's happening. And I would have loved it so much more if it had music.
Yeah, I wonder if there is one. If this does have music later, um,
Hmm.
that'd be interesting to see if she does have it. I don't know.
All right. Cody, we've
Yes,
done it.
we
We've
did it.
broken down the whole album. It took a while, but I have some follow-up questions for you. What for just for this album specifically? What is your favorite song?
I think it's "You Oughta Know." I think it's the best song on the album, and rightfully so. And I think it's kind of had a resurgence too
Yes.
lately. But yeah, I think it's the best song.
I had You Ought to Know and Head Over Feet.
Yeah. No, "You Oughta Know." I think the angrier when she's angrier, it's better.
Yes.
It feels, more authentic. Head Over Feet is almost like, oh wait, is this the same Alanis Morissette? They're such vastly different songs that
Hmm.
it's kind of weird to think that the same artist did it. So no, "You Oughta Know." That's my
Yep.
favorite.
Hmm. What was your least favorite?
Wake Up. Yeah.
Wake Up. Yeah, I said Mary Jane.
Yeah.
I think it's the ninth song on the album. I'm like, you have eight in a row that are great. It
Hmm.
is to, and I want for myself, I wonder if it was placed earlier in the album, would I like it more? But I'm like, you just had eight heavy hitters in a row, and then that ninth one, it was distracting. It was in a different tempo. It just sounded different than everything else. I was like, this is like not hitting for me,
Yeah.
which is
I
unfortunate because it is quite a serious song. And I'm just like,
Yeah, I think I was just exhausted by the end of it. And that Wake Up did not wake me up.
mhm.
And because I felt like I'd heard that song before six
Yeah,
other times on the album.
fair. That's a good analysis.
So,
Um, do you have, I know we kind of already talked about some of these, but what is your favorite lyric?
I think I wanted to pick something from "You Ought to Know," and I really like the line about the nails on when I scratch his back. Do you feel the pain or whatever?
Yeah.
And then I really like some of the lyrics in "Forgiven." Specifically, I confess my darkest deeds to an envious man, which I was like, woof. Being Catholic sucks. But I think it's really basic, and it's, does she know how you told me you'd hold me until you died, but you're still alive? Because I think
Mm,
that's a hard hitting lyric, and especially because it goes right into the chorus after that.
I love
Till
it.
you died, till you died.
That's fun. I had the exact same lyrics,
Oh, for
except
real?
well, I just had I had the two. I didn't have that last one though. That last one is good for, you ought to know every time I scratch my nails down someone else's back, I hope you feel it. She is cursing that man.
Yeah, that's
She
pretty
is,
gnarly.
it's like, I hope you feel it. She's like, mm. And then forgiven, I confessed all my darkest deeds to an envious man. My brothers, they never went blind for what they did, but I may as well have.
Yeah,
That
it's
one's my
good.
favorite.
That's good.
I'm just
Yeah.
like, I again, we talked about some music pairings. I think if someone likes Olivia Rodrigo, they would like Alanis Morissette. I talked about my random Bo Burnham pairing. But was there anything else that, we kind of touched on this, but anything else that this kind of reminded you of, or that, if after you listen to this album, what's another album that you might go seek out?
No, I think that Olivia Rodrigo was my definite pairing. I think you can see a little bit of Paramore in this. You can see a little Taylor Swift in this, um, and it's good to see that this has continued beyond Alanis Morissette. And it isn't just about being angry. It's about being sad. It's about being happy. It's about being in love. And I think that the more and more we see uh, people like even like Sabrina Carpenter, who is typically more fun and poppy and deals in an entendre a lot and innuendo, but she has sad songs, she has loving songs, she has angry songs, but they're dressed up in different ways. And so
Hmm.
it's yeah, but Olivia Rodrigo definitely is where I would go.
Fantastic. Would you recommend this album to a friend?
100% would recommend this to a friend. Love
So
this.
love this. So with that, what is your 5-star rating?
You know, I think that I've this is hard. This is the first one I've done and ever ranked an album before.
Hmm.
I gave it 4 stars.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's a perfect album. I think it's a great album.
Hmm.
Obviously, there's like 8 songs on here that are just complete bangers, but or 6 songs that I would say are bangers. A couple songs that are like really good songs, maybe not my go tos, and then 4 songs that I'm just like whatever. So I'm going with 4. What about you?
I actually did give it 5 stars.
Nice.
I'm like, this is I don't think every song has to be perfect on an album to make it a 5-star album, because I feel like that's such a rare feat. Um, like that's again, to love every single song in an album is so difficult. But the range of emotion, the range of sound, the instruments, at such a young age, for the and what the album is for the time. I mean, we still haven't. I will get into it later in the year. That there was some controversy around this album winning album of the year. A lot of people felt that Mariah Carey got snubbed, and I am deathly curious because I've not listened to that whole album that
Mhm.
Mariah put out in '95, but I'm like, this is so fucking good. How, like, did she really get snubbed or like, I don't know. So if there's a
Yeah.
better album from this year than this album, I don't think there is. I mean, again, which is kind of hard to kick off the year with.
Yeah, no, it's kind of nice though to kick off with the album of the year.
I know, but it's such a, I mean, like, we want to come in hard, right? It's a good, and I loved it. I would recommend it to a friend, and I gave it 5 stars.
Well, now every album that we hear after this, we can be like, "Oh yeah, that's not better." You've got Jagged Little Pill up here, and now you're like, "Eh, it's not as good."
Exactly. Right. And we can compare everything to Jagged Little Pill.
Exactly. So
Well, Cody, that is it. That is our whole album analysis. That is Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette.
I love it.
Uh, Thank you for listening to this album with me, for having this conversation with me. As we do in the 52 universe, whenever we have a new guest on, we like to ask them about their personal preferences. We do it with movies, want to do it with music as well. So before we exit today's conversation, I would like to ask you some of your music preferences, if that's cool.
Yeah, go for it.
So, Cody, what is your favorite type of music?
Well, I like to think that I'm rather eclectic. I like to think that I am broad, but also I am very stuck in my ways. As you can probably tell from some of the things that I'll tell you, is like I love pop punk music, or emo music, specifically from like 2000s to like 2008. I listen to a lot of that. And it's really hard for me to embrace things beyond that, even though I am. 90s country is always something that I'm really stuck in. I kind of hate country music of today. um, I feel like once I hit 30, I also want to listen to things with horns in it. uh, I just want to hear like adult contemporary music because I think it's nice. I don't know. And then every once in a while, I like sad girl music.
Mhm.
That was my genre of choice from like 2020 to 2022. And then it moved into like sad boy music. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm deal with on a day to day basis.
I love it. It is eclectic. It's good. So, with that, who is your favorite artist? You're allowed to give me five because I know it's hard to pick one. So
It
you,
is hard to pick one.
if you don't have five, that's okay too. But you can have up to five favorite artists.
Well, Otis Redding is my always whenever this goes along with like favorite song too. I always have like a couple that if anybody ever asks me this question, this is what I say just to get you out of here. But no, I do love Otis Redding. I love soul music. I look at me. Obviously, I'm screaming soul, especially from the '60s and '70s. I love. soul music from that time. One of my favorite movies is all about soul music. Um, Going through all the rest of my life and the genres that I've went through, I've probably collected a few more favorite artists. Say Anything was one of my favorite bands in high school and in college. Um, right now, the 1975 is probably my go-to listening. I love Kelly Clarkson with all of my heart. I think she is one of the greatest artists ever, with one of the greatest voices of all time. And then going back to my Christian roots, I would say that Five Iron Frenzy, which is a like pop ska band singing about God, has some of my favorite songs of all time, and would listen to them every day if I could because they're so much fun. So yeah, those are probably my five.
I love it. Thank you. What about your top five all-time favorite songs?
Okay, I can do this too.
And again, you don't have to have five. If you
I
have
have
less
five.
than five,
I wrote.
that's
I actually
okay.
wrote six
Oh,
for this.
okay, okay. Breaking the rules, but hey, that's
Breaking the
fine.
rules. It's the first show. Might as well. This is another one. The top two songs that I always tell people is "Time After Time" by Cyndi Lauper, and "Cigarettes and Coffee" by Otis Redding. Those are my top two favorite songs. I would say, if anybody was asking me on the street, "You Could Call Me Al" by Paul Simon. Love that song. It's very near and dear to me. "The Wind" by Cat Stevens is one that I've really fallen in love with over the last like five years or so. Older song, obviously. And then my like tie for fifth is going to go to like "No Children" by the Mountain Goats because it is such a harsh song. I know that's a weird thing to say as like a
It's a
favorite
great
song,
song. It's a
but
great song.
of a time in my life, and I've heard the song for the last like definitely 10 years. I heard it one time on a Adult Swim show and it really stuck with me, but it's become so resonant, and there's just a lot of anger in that song and a lot of hate and vitriol. It's yeah, it's great. And then to kind of go against that, "Hallelujah" by Paramore, which is an early Paramore song, but her vocals on that song are incredible. It's a great song. So yeah, that's it.
I love that. I don't think I knew that Time After Time was one of your favorites.
Oh God, it's a classic. So good.
It's so good. I didn't. I knew Cigarettes and Coffee. I did not know Time After Time.
Time After Time. It's a classic.
Fantastic. Do you have a no skips album? If do you have like one album that you're like I'd listen to it front to back, no skips?
Get Up Kids, 4 Minute Mile. That's what I would say.
All right. Okay. I've not listened to that front to back, so I will now.
I actually used to hate this album because I thought I hated the sound of like lo-fi, like sounded like you were recording in your bathroom with echoes and everything like that.
Mhm.
But no, I love this album. I think it is a perfect album. No notes at all.
Fantastic. All right. I love the recommendations. So write it down, everybody. Um, so who was your first concert?
It was Modest Mouse, and it was at Kings Island, Paramount's Kings Island. It's my
Really?
very
How old
first
were
concert.
you?
I was probably like 13 or 14, I would say. I wasn't
I feel
allowed to
like
go places.
I was gonna say I feel like a lot of people don't have a cool first concert. Like that's a cool first concert.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it.
That's awesome.
No, yeah. I was thinking it was either Modest Mouse or Reliant K,
Mm,
but I'm pretty sure I saw Modest Mouse first.
okay. Well, they can either one. Either one's cool. I like it. What was the first album, CD, or piece of music media that you purchased with your own money?
So this one's embarrassing. Because I have had CDs. I was a big Disney kid, so I had like a Goofy movie on cassette and Pocahontas soundtrack on cassette, but I didn't buy those. The
Mhm.
first CD that I went out and bought myself was by a country artist, a one-hit wonder. His name was James Bonamy, and the name of that album was called Roots and Wings. The one-hit wonder on that album was called The Swing. I'm not going to sing it for you, but you can look it up if you want. James Bonamy. He had very blue eyes. That's all I remember about him. He's a very good looking
Okay.
man.
Very good looking man. Good. I'm glad. As it should be. Do you have any music hot takes?
Yeah, I've probably told you. I know you know these, but one I had in college that pissed a lot of people off was I hate Coldplay. I don't really like Coldplay a lot. That's just not my kind of music at
That's
all.
okay.
But I
That's a
think
hot
my
take, but that's okay.
but I think my hottest take is that I am not a Beyonce boy. Um, I'm not gonna say she's not talented. I'm not gonna say I'm not rocking out to Single Ladies or Surfboard or whatever we got from her. I just do not get the hype, and have not gotten the hype for a while. That's my hot take.
It's a hot take. That is a
That's a
piping
hot
hot
take.
take.
Yeah,
Don't come. The beehive's coming after you.
I know, right?
Well, so the last question I have for you, and this is a question that we will close out every pod with, is: do you have any current recommendations, things that you're listening to right now or this week that you just discovered, or something new that you'd like to recommend?
Yeah. Other than the 1975, which I listen to quite a lot, I've been really, really trying to listen to new bands and new music, and really get out there. So that's how I found Bleachers, which I know is a bigger band, quite in the 1975 zone. Hot Mulligan, I've been listening to a lot more Hot Mulligan. Melt, which has kind of got that like pop soul vibe to it. Jensen McRae, I want to
Mhm.
recommend to everybody and think everybody on the planet should listen to Jensen McRae because her voice is just amazing. It's just this great low alto, beautiful. Oh God, it's so good. And then Clairo, which she's probably most recognizable for being like the nepo baby person, but it's like bedroom pop. I would say is kind of her vibe. But there's a few songs that I've really been vibing out to her. So those are my recommendations.
Thank you so much, Cody. For those are great recommendations. I secondary that Jensen McCrae. She is phenomenal.
It's incredible.
But I want to thank our guest for being here. Thank you so much for hanging out and for chatting about this with us. And I want to thank everybody in the chat, anybody who's out there for hanging out and listening to us. Thank you so much for putting stuff in the chat and hanging out and listening to us. We've been going on for quite a while. Uh, all information, of course, about our future pods can be found. If anything regarding the 52 universe, not just 52 slash music, but 52 slash movies as well, can be found on our Discord server. You are always welcome to sign up. We welcome everyone. You can also follow the 52 slash Instagram account. So again, all information can be found on those platforms. Next week, we are going to be covering again in our Ladies Month. The album Pieces of You by Jewel. That is next week's album. So if you're interested in following along, listening along with us, that is going to be next week, next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next time on 52 slash 1995.
I'm drunk, but I'm sober.